Tonight, I'd like to continue our amazing journey through the book of Numbers. We're up to chapter 12 of this book, which tells a wonderful story about our Jewish brothers and sisters as they were traveling through the desert on their way to the Promised Land. In chapter 12, we're at a town called Hazeroth, and there we get into a little dispute. Miriam and Aaron, the sister and brother of Moses, speak out against Moses, their very own brother. They were concerned about his marriage to a Cushite woman. Reference there, the Cushite woman was probably to Zipporah. She wasn't really a Cushite, she was a Midianite. But this expression might refer to her more as a despised woman. Because again, she was outside of the clan, outside of the tribe, so a lot of times they were looked down upon for that very reason. Miriam really seemed to initiate this more, though, out of her jealousy. She said that God could speak through her and through Aaron as well as through Moses, and of course that's certainly true, and God did speak and does speak through many people, of course. But in this particular situation, God is revealing a lot to Moses, and it's just to be shared really with the people. But jealousy will come as a factor many times in the Bible, as in our own lives. We see this jealousy that kind of comes about, and we try to curb it, we try to restrain it, but sometimes it does get the best of us. Moses is very interestingly described in this chapter as the meekest man on the face of the earth. And it's an interesting description because when you look back upon the life of Moses, you don't always see this meekness. You see him, of course, attacking the Egyptian soldier. You see him going before Pharaoh. You see him in his confrontations with the people. So how meek he is, but of course at times I'm sure he was very meek. And in this particular situation, when he's being attacked by his brother and his sister, he tended to kind of wonder about, where was this coming from? God called Moses and Aaron and Miriam, the three of them, into the meeting tent, of course, where God would have this encounter with Moses in prayer. And God came down and God spoke with them. God said that he speaks to prophets in visions and in dreams, but to Moses he speaks face to face. So we have a very interesting presentation here of the difference between Moses and some of the other prophets and some of the other visionaries. God became angry with Miriam. When God left the tent, Miriam was seen as a snow white leper. This is not a dangerous form of leprosy. It's usually one of short duration. But of course, God got his point across. Don't do this. If you do this, there are going to be consequences. Aaron was upset when he saw it. Naturally, he's like, this happened to Miriam. What's going to happen to me? And he asked Moses to heal her. Moses prayed to God. God said that she should stay outside the camp for 7 days as her punishment. The people started out again when she was brought back after her punishment. So God made it clear, hey, this is the way it's going to be. I'm going to speak to Moses. And great love for Miriam and Aaron, but Moses was the person God chose to work through. The people then went from Hazeroth, once Miriam had been returned to the camp, to the desert of Paran. And then in chapter 12, the Lord told Moses to send out 12 men, one from each tribe. They would scout the land of Canaan. One was Joshua, also called Hoshea. They would determine the strength of the Canaanites and to gather some fruit. It was the season for the early grapes. They were to go from the desert of Zin all the way to Rehob in the north by the Labo of Hamath. So this was a special mission, the special scouting mission that they were on. The idea was, well, they could get a sense of the Canaanites and how they could approach the battle. They brought some grapes back with them, and they brought some pomegranates and figs. They reported back after 40 days, and they told Moses and Aaron and the whole community that the land was indeed a great land. It was flowing with milk and honey, just as God had promised, but that the towns were well fortified. Excavations have found that the walls were 30 to 50 feet high and 15 feet or more thick. So we're dealing here with towns that are really very secure in terms of the fortifications. And the Canaanites were like giants, like the Anakim, who were a very tall tribe, and that the Israelites could never succeed against them. So it was a very negative and scary report. Caleb, the leader of the tribe of Judah, thought that they could succeed against him, so there was a dissenting voice there. Then in chapter 14, the people get upset when they heard this news, and they wanted to support a leader who would take them back to Egypt. So they hear this news, they're like, hey, we're not going to do well here in the promised land. We're up against these giants. Towns are well fortified. This is not going to go well for us. So, hey, would one of you guys like to take us back to Egypt? Here they are, after God had done all this, and God had provided food, and God had led them out, and they were in slavery. Still, they want to go back to Egypt. So what did Moses and Aaron do? They fell prostrate before the community in this position of prayer. They're overwhelmed when they hear the sentiments of the people. Joshua and Caleb tore their garments. It was a common expression of grief in the Near East. When there was a mourning going on, you tore your garments, so they tear their garments. And they told the people that they should not be afraid, for God would lead them to take the land from the Canaanites. The people of that land, they said, would just be food for them. So Caleb and Joshua speak out bravely, and they say, don't worry. You're getting upset, but remember, God is leading you in this. And you have to really trust in God. It's not like yourself and your own power and your own strength. The Lord will lead you in this situation. God appeared at the meeting tent. He told Moses that God would wipe out this people because of their lack of faith, their lack of trust in God, even though God had performed so many signs for them. Here, God had done all these wonderful signs. And they want to go back to Egypt. I mean, it's like God is at his end with the people. God would replace them with a nation that is mightier and greater. So don't worry about it. I'm going to replace them. I'm going to pick a people that is mightier and better than these people because they just have a lack of faith. They have a lack of trust after all I've done for them. Moses pleaded with God and said, God, please forgive the people. They're ignorant. Please forgive them. They get upset. They get emotional. Please, God, forgive them. God said that the forgiveness would be given. And the expression is a beautiful expression that the book of Numbers uses. God is a God rich in mercy and kindness. And kindness, the Hebrew word for that is hesed. The hesed is kind of like a covenant loyalty. God is loyal to the covenant. He is merciful. He is forgiving. And that hesed is one of the most important concepts in the whole Hebrew scriptures. This hesed aspect, this mercy of God. And God displays it here. Here the people, they want to turn on God. They don't trust in God. But Moses pleads for forgiveness, and God offers the people the hesed, the forgiveness out of this covenant loyalty. But he says, because they have tried me so much, none of them will see the promised land. And it's interesting, this concept of responsibility in the Hebrew scriptures. The idea was the responsibility was a family responsibility in both good and evil. Individual responsibility was a later development. The sense was if someone in your family did something wrong, the family as a whole was responsible for this. And to a certain extent, we have that today. We talk about a family's reputation being damaged. God says, Caleb, however, he shall be brought into the land, and his people shall possess it because Caleb trusted in me. And of course, who was the very first one in the scriptures who trusted in God, that model of trust? Our very own Father Abraham. And as we know, Father Abraham has many friends has Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord. Keep on praising the Lord, and God bless.